Library, Monticello, Illinois, began in 1985 making tapes of senior citizen oral history interviews. Marilyn A. Jean was the interviewer for Glenna James Mosgrove at her home on Rural Route 1, Box 138, Mansfield, Illinois, December 10, 1986. Mrs. Mosgrove, the first question is always, when and where were your parents born?
My father, Charles Edmund James, was born in North Manchester, Indiana, December 23, 1867, in a log cabin built from 2 white oaks hewn by his father. He was 3 years old when his family, Elias Poston James and Mary, and 2 sisters came to Fayette County in February 1871. In the fall of 1870, he had come by train to Champaign, then ridden horseback to buy his farm 4 miles southwest of the new town of Mansfield. He made arrangements for the railroad that as soon as the rails were laying into Mansfield, on its very first run, his chartered car would have his household and farm equipment, his livestock, grain and seed, buggy, wagon, and so forth. And in that freight car was the wooden rocking horse that was the pride and joy of his 3-year-old son. My father's first home in Illinois was a 2-room with a kitchen lean-to. Later, 3 more children were born into that home. My mother, Louisa Dim Reinhardt, was born in a big brick house in Millstown, Pennsylvania, where lived the governor of Pennsylvania lived. 4 rooms on each floor, fireplace in each room, wide window sill, books in the hall archways, and a winding stairway that pleased the governor. But my mother's mother died soon after she was born on February 16, 1872. So her Uncle Fred and Aunt Martha Jane Dim Reinhardt, who had no children, brought her with them when they came to Logan County, Illinois in 1876 and to Fayette County in 1878 at Harris, across Route 150 from the present Tabor elevator, is the White House where my mother spent her girlhood, loved as much as if she had been their own. It was in this house that my mother and father were married September 9, 1896. However, the post office was not called Harris until 1904. It was Martha, named in honor of its postmistress, Martha Jane Reinhardt, who had the postal business in the corner of her kitchen from 1888 to 1904, when she was planning to move to Colorado. I loved to watch her carry in the mail pouch from the 10:10 morning train, pull out the mail and sort it. She didn't always get all of the mail in the boxes, however, because there was a line of neighbors waiting for expected letters. But I noticed they never minded waiting, for they enjoyed my Aunt Jane Grandma's ginger cookies as much as I. We still had the red lantern she used when she wanted the train to stop to take on mail for Martha. The name of the railroad was Indianapolis, Bloomington, and Western. I.B.W. and nicknamed I'd Better Walk. We'll admit it was accommodating, though. For example, if it was a stormy, late at night, when 10:30 came to Martha, the train engineer would let the Reinhardts off right in front of their own house, so they wouldn't have to walk from the Martha station.
Could you tell us a little about the schooling of your parents?
My father, Charles James, started school at Canaan, 2 miles northeast of his home. There were no real roads. If there were no grain in the fields, they would cut across the fields, even on the so-called roads. Even if it was in the rainy season, my father would point out to me where the deepest swamps were. They had to be wading. And if snow was too deep, his mother taught the children at home. My Uncle Owen said he often rode piggyback on his brother Charles' shoulder, and all the children walked close to their big brother to alert them when he saw rattlesnakes and blue races. Finally, when all 6 children were in school, Grandpa E.P. James gave an aide south out to his big orchard for victory school to be organized. Now the 6 could go home for dinner if they didn't want to carry a dinner bucket, or if they preferred to play. My father has told me often they raided the orchard, for his father had planned a seasonal orchard from the early harvest apples to the winter imperials, summer and fall peaches, pears from Dutchess to Bartlett, Princess, grapes, purple, white, and pink. From Victory School, my father went to Union Christian College, Miram, Indiana, the church school. However, he did not go consecutive terms, for he had gotten his teacher's certificate and taught rural schools to earn enough money for the next term. He taught at Mount Vernon near DeLand, Pleasant Grove, and number 6 near Mansfield. Riding horseback from Mount Vernon 5 miles distant, he then often rode on in Mansfield for the mail. His grade card from Union Christian College, spring term, March 28, 1893, speaks for itself. Latin 3, 95. Algebra, 96. Botany, 95. Rhetoric, 95. And vocal music. The tuition for the term, $8. Charles James's grades in the last Piatt County Common School superintendent's exam from Victory School before he'd gone to Miram had been on the 3rd Friday of February, 1887, with spelling 85, reading 75, writing 100, arithmetic 100, language united, geography 100, United States history 100. My father planned to be a doctor, but in the fall of 1895, he contracted a severe attack of the grip, which affected his eyes and hearing, so he had to give up further study. So he came back to his James homestead, and in the spring of 1896, purchased 150 acres, where he brought his bride after their wedding September 9th, when they entertained 300 guests on the Golden Wedding Day, and on September 9th, 1946, and where they lived until their death. Although this progressive master farmer added 120 acres to the east and 160 to the west, the 115 became his maple mead. My mother went to the Gardner Country School, 1 mile west of her home, until 1883 when it was moved to Harris. She walked the railroad tracks to school, and although the teacher, her Uncle Simon Dim, was with her on that morning of the near tragedy, they did not hear the freight train coming behind them. They were on the middle of the bridge and Newton didn't have time to reach the end, so they dropped it over the railroad ties and held on till the train roared past them. Then Uncle Simon managed to get little Louie up onto the rails again. The school was located by the trunk of Fleet, which provided the perfect setting for a commercial geography lesson. They built cities on the banks and floated nutshell cargo downstream. They tied tops of the tall prairie grass together to form a ceiling for their homes, where social graces were taught. Her last Piatt County Common School superintendent's monthly exam on Friday, December 19, 1884, showed that Louis Reinhardt made the following ranks in the monthly exam: spelling and reading rank 1, arithmetic and geography 2, United States history 6, grammar 3. Louis Reinhardt wrote and passed her first teacher's certificate February 1st, 1888, but being only 15, Superintendent George Knapp could not deliver it to her until her 16th birthday, February 16th. She taught the spring term at Harris in 1888, but didn't graduate from Farmer City High School until the next spring, March 16th, 1889. Her first salary was $30 per month, and before she quit teaching country schools, her salary was $50. She and Charles James were the only 2 teachers in northern Piatt County to receive $50 salary. She had met Charles James when 16 years of age at a Bethel Young People's Party. She quit teaching at Christmas 1895, for she longed to go to college before her marriage. But I assure you that the old adage is true. Once in a school teacher, always a school teacher. My brother Lester James, in writing about our mother as the perfect hostess, remarks, I can't recall a time when my mother sat down to a meal and finished it without getting up at least once, if for nothing else, to look up a word in the dictionary so the conversation could proceed more grammatically. My father and mother both were from farm families, both had taught schools, both were devout members of the Bethel Church. Don't you think I chose my parents wisely? My mother died October 13th, 1969, at 97 years of age. My father died December 12th, 1951, at 84 years of age.
Glenna, where were you born?
I was born at Maple Mead, November 16th, 1900. My doctor was M.C. McIntyre, pharmacist. He also officiated the birth of my brother, November 4th, 1905. Maple Mead is 2 miles west of my cousin Mary Bird's home.
Did anyone else live with your family of 4?
Oh, yes. The dear one who lived with the longest was Aunt Jane Grandma. Francis' grandfather died in Colorado in 1924. Mother went to the funeral and helped dispose of the necessary business, including sale of the house, furniture, packing whatever Grandma wanted to bring back to Illinois. She lived with us 8 years. We gave her a very special 80th birthday party, and we took her back to Pennsylvania to see her old home and relatives. What a joy that was for all 4 of us. George Hawk is another one. He lived with us many years as a hand on the farm. Then Roxana Garrett came to help Mother, and you guessed it, in 1912 they were married in our living room in a new house. That was the first of my weddings that I paid for. In 1915, when my Uncle Owen James, Shakespearean professor at Mills College, California, was taking his class at Avon in England, he and Aunt Rosetta left Flora with us. She knew us because we had visited Uncle Owen for a month while we took in the World Fair in 1915. However, they didn't stop for her and moved home, so she was with us 3 years. Mother heard of that Anna Warren, a Bethel girl, needed a place to stay, so she could attend school, so of course my room was now used by Anna. When my brother left for James, married Grace Goldman, December 1st, 1935, at Bethel, and returned from their honeymoon to Uncle Owen's in California. They lived with Father and Mother in the big house at Maple Mead until they could build their adjoining bungalow. So at last I had a sister, a real sister, all these years.
What were some of your pioneer chores?
Every morning, the lamps had to be cleaned and filled. Cogs and wood carried to the box behind the stove. I made my first soap when I was 10 years old. When Mother cooked the white corn to make hominy, I was seated by the cooling kettle on the kitchen table to pick out the hearts that had been made black by the lye in the cooking. I tried in vain to shake Mother's patch of butter into a pineapple. She was scolding in County City. She was regular tough. I was very successful with my mother.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Victory School where my father had gone. Since I was not 6 until November 16th of 1906, I couldn't start the Victory until the next year. So Mother got to be a school teacher again, unfolded the mysteries of the 3 R's. And before I started school, in Papa's diary, he says, Glenna started the school March 25th, 1907. A month in school was thought to be helpful before I would enter the 2nd grade, September 1907. It must have worked because here are some more things in Papa's diary. Glenna's 1907 grade. Spelling. There must have been in 3 terms because I have a 95, 90, and a 93. Reading, 95, 95, 93. Arithmetic, 97, 90, 87. Language, 90, 85, 85. Physiology, 94, 89, 90. Deportment, that was the first thing that my parents probably looked at. 97, 96, and 97. So my average was 95 and 2/3, 90 and 5/6, 94 and a half. And I ranked down there all the time. Living in the country.
Living in the country, what stories might you have about your transportation to the Victory School?
But when I first started school, if the weather was good, my main locomotion was that of my fancy pony. That may be a provincial expression, but I find it was a Scottish expression, and I can testify that I walked to school 1.5 miles. I'd try to meet Bessie Martin at the corner for company, and Miss James would often walk with me the last quarter of a mile. It's bad, brother, and Papa hadn't come for me. That gave me a good excuse to stay all night at that noise. I was not a very brave little girl, especially for transportation. I was used to old Pat Fagin, the Irish peddler who had walked the north end of Pike County 2 or 3 times a year with a pack on his back. Fine lemons, lace, scissors, and eagle's pin. His pack was made of striped bed-ticking, covered with oilcloth, fitted with various sized pockets, could fit every need and all was in perfect order. When he unfolded that huge circle on the rug, housewives and children vied for his attention. My very first pair of scissors came from that packet. But alas, there were tramp tramps. I remember one morning when a tramp moseyed up our lane and demanded breakfast. Mother did not happen to have a menu that suited him. So as he walked down the lane, he turned frequently to shake his fist at my mother. She had told me stories of tramps on the old state road to market. That if they liked what they were given, they would put a sign on the post as they left to guide the next beggar. So one morning as I was walking to school, I saw one of those tramps. I ran a half mile back home to get someone to take me to school. But the men were gone. So my fragile little mother placed my bundled little brother in his little red wagon and pulling it. She went far enough to prove that the tramp was merely sun shining on a huge man-shaped bunch of hay caught on a gateway post as the man had been hauling hay from the field. A very frosty morning had added to the image. But my delay had made me tardy for school, for as I entered the 24 students were saying, "Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven." That was the only time I was ever tardy in all my years of business. I had learned a great lesson. When I got big enough to throw a saddle over old Nell, I rode her and put her in the barn at Victory. Then Papa bought an Indian white and blue pony, which we drove to a park, and which is the hero of my next story. Permit me to add here that before we graduated from Victory, our father had purchased the ultimate in budget, the storm budget, 2 double seats with a framework that supported the roof, the side, glass panels, and doors. The front panel glass had slots for the guidelines from horse to driver. Now, the wonderful one-horse race. Once again, permit me to be grateful to my teacher, Rhoda Best, who made poems come to life for us. As we studied the Deacon's masterpiece of the one-horse race, Oliver Wendell Holmes, I felt I'd ridden with the Deacon. Shortly afterward, Miss Best was teaching us how to write a parody. With a twinkle in her eye, she suggested I use this beloved poem. So here's my parody on the wonderful one-horse race. That morning, as usual, we started to school, brother with sister, as was the rule. We'd enjoyed the snow falling on the way, which fed our pony pulling our sleigh. Papa had put pipe runners under carts, so every morning we could hardly wait to start. Waving goodbye to the men at barn door, and on past the house, watching Mother to the door. Our Indian pony put on quite a show as we glided down the lane and to road did go. I was asking Leslie if he had heard the wonderful one-horse race. It was built in such a logical way. It ran 100 years to a day. And then, of a sudden, I can see what happened without delay. There's a poem ended, but not our display. For all of a sudden, our pony stood still. The runners spread out. Oh, what a thrill. Going lickety-clip, and suddenly we sat. We could hear Papa laughing as he waved his hat. He counted for the pony. So walking and laughing to school as we go, for, like a beacon, we've had our one-horse story.
Most pioneers have remembered priceless stories of runaways or breathless moments when driving their horses. Do you have any of those stories to tell?
Most of our runaways were horses on mules that came fighting in the field. But this story I've taken from my Reinhardt book. Descendants may have difficulty in believing it, but I know, for I was there. 12 miles were always 12 miles from driving to Belfast to Grandpa, Isaac Newton Reinhardt. But this one Sunday Eve in particular is to be remembered. It must have been about 1912, for cars were not unusual when we got our first one, a Ford, in 1914. Now, on this particular evening, Papa was driving our spirited road team, Greece and June, to the Surrey. And since it was a hot summer day, we waited until sunset to start home. We were thinking only of the heat and not the possibility of meeting that monster, a roaring automobile, descending upon us at 15 miles per hour, with those piercing Crestone headlights. I said, "Dear, how far it'll tangle through this beam." What would the horses do? Papa thought best for Mama left for me to get out and stay close to the fence. There we trembled in fear for Papa's safety as he got his leather gloves grip in the line holds, together with his hooks ready if the fighting team should try to pile up on the surrey. Then, staying closer to the west fence and speaking gently, yet firmly as was his way in times of stress, he coaxed trembling horses on to meet the surging Papa's flounder. In the distance we could see the lights halt. To hear the voice of the courteous driver asking if he should come on or should he shut off the engine's motor and help lead the horses past. Papa replied that the horses would have to get used to cars sometime, so the thoughtful motor pulled over to the east fence of that level, wide road, and the passing took place without incident. When we caught up with Papa, he was out of the surrey, petting the noses of the still trembling little babies. They had passed so well their first test and ours. The only runaway I was involved in was May 18, 1908, on the way to Bethel Church. Driving the sturdy team, Doc and June, we stuck in the mud hole hub deep a quarter of a mile north of the church. The horses pulled so hard that the double trees broke from the surrey, hitting the horses on their legs. And of course that frightened them, and away they went. Double trees breaking apart and moved as they neared the church. Perhaps as well, for as they neared the church, where 10 teams were tied to the hitch rack, our team might have caused all of the horses to break loose and run. Doc ran between the hitch rack and the hedge, and so was easily caught by the very scared men. But June on the open road proved quite a problem. The women and children were told to hurry into the church so all was well. The trembling team was tied to the hitch rack. But what about us sitting there in the stalled surrey in a 3-foot deep mud hole? Well, Jay Basin, living just north of the church, saw the runaway. So he hitched his horses to a wagon and came to rescue the James family. Sunday school superintendent Charlie James started Sunday school a bit late, but so grateful that no one was hurt. His daughter, who was playing for him that morning, calmly played the songs the cheerfully picked out, and we rode home with Uncle Bert James examining their wagon. They knew they had a mud hole they couldn't get to. Then Father went back for the horses from the surrey. How am I saying Bethel? I want to tell you that it was a Christmas program at Bethel where I first saw Santa Claus. It was a cold, snowy night, so Mother felt she should stay home with the baby Leslie. Those in charge had used some low picket fencing across the front of the stage to support tinsel and flowers. I was in the front row of the little songsters, singing about Santa Claus, when lo and behold there he was, coming in the front door. Well, it frightened me so to see the real Santa that I took one flying leap right over the picket fence to find my mother. Suddenly I realized she wasn't there, but the closest lady I knew held out her arms to me and saved my life. Thank you, Mrs. Bill Thomas. By the way, it was at Bethel that I met my future husband, Charles A. Mosgrove, leader of the Monticello Christian Endeavor Society, at its 96th Endeavor Rally. He chose the songs which I played for the rally, and I accompanied Charles and Amos Bloomingdale duets when their companies did not arrive. This was in May of 1916.
While you're talking about Bethel Church, tell us something of your activities there.
I began playing piano for the Christian Endeavor evening service in 1910. I soon followed as assistant pianist for Sunday school, first official electric pianist for church services in 1912. From 1928 to 1986, that's 58 years, I have played either the piano or the organ which Bethel purchased in 1957. We have used piano and organ duets for the preludes and offertories most Sundays, 1957 to 1985. Paul Finney, the grade school music supervisor at Farmers City then, 65, he went to college in New Jersey, where he was instructor. And I prepared duets from the classics in 4th and 5th grade arrangements. His original hymn transcriptions were a challenge and inspiration to Bethel musicians. Others who have played duets with me were Martha Lichtenberger, Kay Boyer, both pastors' wives, Diane Camel, Beverly Cox, Michelle Mosgrove. What good times we have had over the 28 years of preparing music for worship at Bethel. I became a choir director when I came home to teach at Mansfield High in 1927. And served in that capacity in 1928 and 1980, when Lucille Long kindly became director, so that I didn't need to go out at night to choir practice if inadvisable. I have held the office of church clerk for a period I was superintendent of the junior department of the Sunday school. I helped Florence Galloway establish the Bethel Daily Visitation Bible School in 1928, and wrote pageant themes for closing programs 1928 to 1945. I have served as Assistant Secretary of Bethel Women's Fellowship since 1970. I seldom miss the monthly meetings and so finish as secretary when they need to be away. I have taught every age Sunday school class at Bethel, from the kindergartens up to the teenagers and on to the adults. I wish I had kept record of the many weddings that I had played for at Bethel, at Mansfield Methodist Church, and in homes. For one wedding, I had to be transferred from a car to a wagon in order to get through the mud to the home. At a prominent wedding in Mansfield, I had played the usual 20-minute prelude. The mother of the bride was seated. The soloist had finished his wedding prayer. But something was amiss. I could not make out signs until one of the ushers pretended he was playing the organ. So I kept on playing something, and eventually the man appeared. Sure enough, the bridegroom had left his bride's wedding ring under his pillow. Thank goodness the best man was fleet of foot, and the home only a block away. So here comes the bride.
Weddings, did you ever attend a chivalry?
Oh, the very word chivalry sent chills on my back, because I heard my mother talk so many times about her chivalry. In 1896, the dancers played rough, shooting guns, and one shot went through her upstairs bedroom window, barely missed it. Each time she'd know of a planned chivalry, mother feared for the outcome. Noisemakers as they wanted, but not weapons. Knowing how popular my brother was, I was determined to squelch any pioneer plan for Leslie and Grace James, who expected to leave for California immediately after the reception at her mother's. Leslie's college roommate, Jimmy Dennison, was his best man, and that he was. Sunday morning, the day of the wedding, December 1st, 1935, Jimmy and I took the bride's room suitcases to Champaign, Illinois, Central Depot locker. brought the key to Lester. Then to Sunday school and church, dinner. Then I prayed for the wedding at 4 o'clock. After the usual picture taking, I seemed to have been the last to arrive at the reception as Grace's mother's one-car was lane. Locked my car in the drive and took the keys. Then while the refreshments were being served, a pickup truck arrived at the lane entrance, and two of Lester's friends carried in a huge box, a present for the bride and groom, so heavy that they set it down just inside the north door. All crowded around Lester to see such a large gift. But try as he did, he couldn't bring it into the passage. So Grace, so helpful, said, "Wait a minute, I'll get some scissors." As speculations grew as to the contents, suddenly Lester opened that north door leading to the lane, flew down those steps to the waiting pickup truck with the motor left running. Grace had fled out the south door of the kitchen, grabbing her mother's coat left there for this purpose, and arriving at the truck at the same time. They were off. The would-be pranksters tossed Jimmy aside, but their next problem was my locked car. By the time they got that moved by hand, Lester and Grace were at the corner north, transferring to his own car brought in perfect timing by a real friend. Frozen ruts made the getaway dangerous, but Lester had a good start. From Mansfield they went north to get east to Champaign, thus throwing pranksters off their trail. The bride and groom got their suitcases and headed for California as planned for their honeymoon. P.S. So you wonder what was in the box? Well, we took no chances. Jimmy and I wrapped a few packages on top of the wedding gift paper. Papa's in some of those packages? Oh, Father's long underwear, cooking pans, and rocks to make it cheap for the men carrying this heavy, heavy stuff. Next day, James B. Dennison went back to his duties as assistant at the public relations to the president of the Michigan State University, and Miss James arrived at Mansfield High School.
Do you recall any Bethel Pioneer stories?
Yes, one of the favorites of mine, Grandma and Mary Shepherd James's splendid stories. In the leisurely half-hour visiting in front of the church after services, the only chance people had to talk, some woman was being rebuked by a neighbor for not coming to see her more often. Not thinking how it would sound, the rebuked one answered, "Well, I know, but we're just so busy, and the horses working so hard and all. I just can't manage to visit even the ones I'd like to see." I've seen the twinkle in Grandma's eyes so many times as she worked into her reply about something or someone. Uncle Olin James writes that it was his mother who would dryly deflate a small boy's big talk or some older harebrained great idea. Bobby Martin, yeah. That'll run like Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith did. Harrison Smith, who had already arrived on the prairie before my grandpa in 1871, had an originality coupled with a distrust of book learning. The prairie needed drainage ditches, yes, but these newfangled surveyors charged a heap for laying out a ditch, and all they done was just squint through a tube and pretend to be important. So Harrison assembled teams and scrapers and made a ditch. Just used his eye and his head. It was a handsome ditch, but it ran uphill, and prairie flood water didn't. Often when I approached the corner of a mile north of Bethel, I'd hear my grandpa James or my father telling the big trail they ahead and riding horseback upon the city. And my father was about 5 years old. Suddenly the horse snorted, stopped in his tracks, trembling, Grandpa had my pocket and I clicked on the horse. Sure enough, being just that much taller, we could see a pack of wolves just over the hill. They were heading northeast, so Grandpa quickly urged his horse to ride south and west. Thus drawing, the horses sent away from the wolves. Only once at Mosgrove farm northeast of Mansfield, under a hedge in the northwest corner of the field, there is a tombstone within a fenced area. A farmer had driven hogs to market and was on his way home at dusk, within shouting distance of the house, when a pack of wolves attacked his horse, killing the horse and the rider. Another of my Grandpa James's stories concerned this same 4 years or so of Beckleford, and the wolf story. George Wheeler owned the land. He planted the whole 40 acres in walnuts. Of course, that was not a success. But Grandpa always ended this account by respectfully remarking that it was George Wheeler who really used acres for Beckleford. It's hard for us to understand how the pioneers were always longing to plant trees. An open prairie needed the trees for windbreaks, for beauty, as shade trees, or productive fruit trees. The commonest way of marking boundary lines between your farm and that of your neighbors was to plant a hedge. Grandpa E.P. James would ride to a neighbor near a lodge who had a hedge big enough to produce hedge apples. And when they were arrived in the fall, Grandma would go on a horseback with a big gunny sack to bring hedge apples home. Soak them until the bark would come off, then continue soaking them until they'd root by spring. Set these saplings in the garden until they were 6 inches high and sturdy enough to grow when planted. My father tells how he would lie on his tummy on a sled, being pulled by a horse, and dropping these saplings into the previously plowed furrow at the right depth for the best growth. I recall my father commenting one evening after a hard day at tractor pulling hedges with 30-foot roots that he didn't know which was the most tiring, planting the hedge or pulling them out after they had served their purpose. I think one reason my Grandpa James loved our Bethel minister, Brother Ricky, so much was because they both were horticulture. In swapping science, bedding, and grafting fruit trees. That was Brother Ricky's occupation in Atlee. I have a double red tulip from the bulbs taken in the covered wagon by Bright Green, Sarah A. Tower, and Robert Shepherd, 1838, from Cannonsburg, Kentucky, to bring down to County, Illinois, then back to Mill Mine, Illinois, to live with their lives. While Brother George Ricky was not the only minister at Bethel who had a money-making occupation. N.W. Crow, 1967, was a professional horse trainer, and the Bethel farmer who entertained him over the weekend was well repaid. He broke colts in a kindly, scientific manner that was a marvel to the pioneer farmers of the community. It was fascinating to watch him approach a tumbling colt, and after a week's training, their colt would come to him and call.
What were some of the family fun projects?
Oh, all the Sangamon River picnics with the Sangamon. I still have Solomon's Field, trillions, Destiny's Bitches from the Sangamon Bank. My yellow rods are Winterfield. The years to talk with, they were something. At Mansfield Park in the big tent, there was educational as well as entertaining. Hawaii had quiet huts and Hawaiian guitars in a lab producing frozen ice, good speakers like Glenna James Bryan, and for years after hearing Roger sing, "Oh, it's nice to get up in the morning and the sun begins to shine," my father awakened us to that tune. Several years previous to the closing of the Perfect Youth Fund in Mansfield, about 1923, we enjoyed joining the thousands of negroes from all over Illinois who had come to hear and see some 30,000 white youths parade and cackle. Of course, they did not know that next day they'd be on a train headed for New York City for the Thanksgiving trade. The rabbi there did the rest. I'm sure the greatest thrill for our family was seeing Howard's Comet in 1910. We had been reading about it in the paper, and on the night that was to be at its best, we went down the tree-lined lane to the open road to watch. Mother had read that we might be able to read from its light, so she took something to try it out, and sure enough, it was as predicted. We wanted to share its beauty like we had shared so many 4th of July fireworks displays with Uncle Bert, and so some of them went back to the house to call to be sure that they were out watching too. And when they didn't answer, 9-year-old cousin Robert Baker, who was spending the summer with Leslie, said, "Why, of course you couldn't get them. The comet's on the line." That was a saying with us for a long time, and folks didn't answer. We heard that some people still do it then, but we saw only another God's wonders and comet. Father and Mother knew they wouldn't live to see the 1986 Howard's Comet. The greatest earth fun we had was the summer of 1910 when a new house was built. The old house was moved down into a grove near the road where we lived until the occupancy of the new house. Seeing a quarter-of-a-mile parade of horses and wagons hauling lumber from the Sangamon River area was breathtaking in itself. And as we watched the carpenters build it, oh, that's going to be the picture. Often working upstairs. There goes my room.
Could you tell us a little something about the Pioneer telephone?
Some years before we had a telephone to Bonnet City, my father, Sidney James, his brother Bert, and brother-in-law decided rigged up a telephone system so they could claim their James Colony farms today. They helped each other in most of their farm activities, such as haymaking, baling, concrete flooring, and building discipline. I know it was before 1910 when we built the new house. When the National Telephone Company began in Bonnet City, they insisted we hook onto them. But our 3 men agreed on one condition, that we have a switch in Charlie James's home, and then if the new line of 21 or more customers was busy, the men could be in the field before the gossips had everything settled. One of my childhood duties was to watch that Papa didn't forget to drop the switch after a time session. We had that switch for years. Each customer on the telephone line had his number, such as too long, long, short, long, that in case of a fire or other catastrophe, one got help by constant long until they felt everyone was on the line to hear the answer.
What can you tell me about the Pioneer refrigeration?
We had a wonderful cave for preserving potatoes, apples, beef, pears, cabbage, salsify, celery, sweet potatoes, but we had no way to keep milk fresh nor water cool. C.E. James's diary records that on March the 12th, 1909, he unloaded a freight car load of ice at Galesville. Had bought it from a groceryman, A.R. Ross in Nashville, at $2.20 per ton, laid down at Galesville. 22 loads in all, about 50 broken cases of ice. March 13th, finished ice. Then he said, borrowed 3 loads of Schwartz's at Pike's Ice House, and 1.5 loads of oil pipes at Galesville. December 23rd, 1909, he put up ice at the Schwartz Pond, 10 inches thick. We hauled 16 loads. I had 2 teams, December 27th, hauled sawdust from the Coney. George and Bert got 2 loads of ice, December 28th. 4 sleds went after sawdust to Foster's east of Blythe. February 8, 1907, he had helped unload a load of ice. One day in the summer of 1907, he had paid 7% for a case of ice in Bonnet City. Driving horses for 7 miles, I don't know how much melted in each. Dr. Bowers had recommended me for ice for his San Pedro. father must have built our ice house in concrete blocks in 1906.
Okay.
I can find no date for the organization of some 25 men who owned the ice pond in Mosgrove, where the tile factory had been. In the fall, the pond was cleaned ready for the fall rain, and when the ice froze solid enough in winter, an ice cutter was used to cut the ice into 100-pound blocks. These were loaded on wagons and hauled to the concrete block ice houses of the pond owners. There the blocks were packed in sawdust ready for summer consumption. In the ice blocks in our pantry. Guess whose duty it was to pull that heavy dish full of water from under the ice blocks and dump it straight in the kitchen? Naturally, the project of cutting ice needed to be carried out on a very cold day. The driver of the team usually walked beside the wagon, the 5 miles from Mansfield. Well, who would want to sit on a block of ice for an hour?
Did you belong to any clubs when you were a child?
Yes, ma'am, I sure did. I was an ardent forage club member until the year I raised chickens. Father said I could use a small individual hog house under the trees in the west pasture, just west of our house. The 4 hens had to raise their chickens to half-grown size. Then one afternoon, a terrible storm blew the lattice door open. Something else must have blown open also, for suddenly there were hogs in the pasture, and as the scared chickens ran out the small door, a hog grabbed it one by one until all had been devoured. That ended my 4-H endeavor.
Were you in the service during World War I?
It was impossible for my father to find men to help him plow corn. So I, like a lot of other girls, plowed corn for 2 summers. I was driving 3 horses, following close behind my father's plow one day. My middle horse got attacked by a huge horsefly, and I yelled so that my father was able to come to my aid, kill the fly, and we headed on down the road of corn. I was so frightened as the horses reared up, I thought he was going to land on me. And if you think that other horses weren't as frightened as you're mistaken. I pulled the rope in haymaking, sewing the bales in the barn loft. All Bethel women met weekly to roll bags for the Red Cross.
When did you take your first car ride?
September 22nd, 1907, on a Sunday afternoon at Uncle Joe Reinhardt's near Bellflower. Papa's diary says that we saw this red two-seater without a top and had the ride of our lives. I've always thought it was a red Rambler.
When did your father buy his first car?
A Model T in 1914. Afterwards, the Model A Ford that I learned to drive. Then an Nova and touring car. It too had certain that you could stop and snap on if the rain was coming. Finally, in 1927, when I came to teach at Mansfield, my brother Leslie and I purchased a Chevrolet. The bargain was that it was my car in the daytime and his in the evenings and weekends. If I had school activities at night, I drove my father's car. Then in 1940, my father and I purchased a Buick. My first Buick story. Winona Kyle, Mount Pleasant, Iowa, my college classmate, and I had planned a trip north on a summer vacation in 1940. I had watched the mailbox eagerly for arrival in that pre-publication paperweight book by Evangeline Bergstrom, because I had hoped to visit her on this trip. On the morning I left for Iowa, I had a hunch that maybe the book had arrived at the post office after the rural mail carrier had left. Sure enough, the thrill of all thrills, I got to visit Mrs. Bergstrom as her first guest who had read her book. My allotted half hour grew to 4 hours with her. We were served chocolate in the drawing room. Oh, it was a wonderful experience. You'll find the account in the paperweight news, Volume 7, Number 1, January 1985, for my story received a prize of $40. The second Buick story, my girl's second pet at the Matching Regional won a first rating. That meant that we would go to the next Saturday to the state contest at Bloomington. But on the way home, I had been put twice and was in 3 garages. With a load of 7 girls, Monday morning, I asked the girls if any of their friends would take us to Bloomington. My car would not be ready yet. Ethel Mosgrove was one of the girls in the music second. So the next evening, she asked her daddy to bring her over to my house to Mosgrove at her home, to inform me that her daddy and her brother would take the Saturday out to Bloomington. Yes, that would be all right with me. We got a second rating at the state contest. Drill yours for breaking down at the right time. You might say that Buick and Eflin did the courting. Then the next weekend there was an antique show at Decatur, so Eflin asked Miss James if she'd like to go with her and her daddy. Watch a glass blower at Decatur, blowing a little rig to twist the horse which I still have. Charles Adamson, Mosgrove, and I were married June 2nd, 1943 in my home, and Eflin sang I Love You Dear.
Did you earn money to get through college?
I was treasurer of the college dining club at $4.50 per week. I paid the bills downtown, walking about 2 miles to do it. The first year I lost 1 cent on the $20,000 involved. In the second year I gained 2 cents. In the summer, I gave piano lessons. While teaching at Mansfield, I took my antiques to women's group, not for money, but for the information I could share. They usually gave me $5 to $25. UAR, Alabama, Monticello, various women's clubs, including Farmstead, Mansfield, Monticello, Mason City, Belfast, Fairbury, and many church groups. I recently entertained the South Prairie Club. Brought by the bird princesses in my doctor. My great-granddaughter-in-law, Betty Mosgrove, was the Illinois Flying Farmer Queen in 1982. She asked me to entertain the Illinois members clearly, showing them my doll. She had refreshments in her house and store. I thought the men would not be interested, but by introducing them first to a teddy bear feeding her baby, and the teddy Charles Milton Oscar that plays his drum, I found the men were interested in doll stories too, especially with some ladies.
What about the Depression? Was it difficult to run a household? Did you mind the ration stamp? Did the bank closings affect you?
It seems to me we took the Depression as part of patriotic duty as a result of the war. In cooking, we had to adapt changes in our recipes, and we definitely didn't go joyriding on Sunday afternoon. I remember one evening at Mrs. Albert's grocery store in Mansfield, when I asked for a baking powder. She smiled, told me about the lady who had brought the last pan. She had started to leave, but came back to lead the pan. She stayed for us. For it dawned upon her that it would be patriotic to take only a fourth of the baking powder in a little stock. Then 3 more ladies to continue their baking. I got the second fourth for my mother. Wasn't that a good idea? I remember going into Mansfield Bank to cash a check. Sorry, darling, but cashing only for those who need medicine or for a funeral. I have yet to find anyone who got wooden nickels at the bank that would pay for groceries or gas for the car. A.G. Vaughan, Robert Howe, George Howe would have remembered them, I'm sure. Why do we wait till people have passed on and so fail to record some of our interesting history? I believe Roy Bateman remembered more people than anyone I've contacted for help in genealogy. I know I used some wooden nickels, and have one in my collection of old coins. We were lucky, for the Mansfield Bank did not close. The church themselves, we have took care of the rationing of bank for sugar. That's in our minutes that I was working on this summer when I was giving the reminiscing of the 75 years after Declaration of God. All of that had to go to the churches the same as the home.
Do you remember the interurban from Champaign?
Oh, you're right. The earliest train service in Champaign to Monticello was in March of 1871 and extended to Decatur in 1873. It finally became a part of the Illinois Central. That same year, the Chicago and Paducah Railroad came to Monticello to Chicago, St. Louis. The McKinley traction system began interurban services to Monticello from Champaign in early 1907. A Monticello bulletin of March 6 pointed out that the cars leave Monticello every 2 hours, 15 minutes after an odd hour, from 7 in the morning until 9 at night. Fare to Whitey, 15 cents, to Champaign, 40 cents. The service was extended to Decatur as soon as the roadbed was completed in 1907. According to my father's diary, December 7, 1907, he and I went to Decatur yesterday. We drove horses to Monticello, 14 miles south of our home, put them in the livery stable. Car fare to Clinton cost 72 cents. From Clinton to Decatur, 63 cents. Streetcar fare in Decatur, 16 cents. Candy, 10 cents. Horn and Christmas cards, 10 cents. Livery bill, 25 cents. Uncle Dr. Bauer's bill was $15.50. He said I had run bingo. In trying to piece the picture together, we must have gone from Monticello to Clinton on the train, for there never was an interurban Monticello train like that. Had the Monticello to Decatur branch been in use by December 7th, we would have taken the interurban south from Monticello as we did when we went to our Uncle Dr. Bauer's to get my tonsils out of it. I don't remember anything about train on my first trip down south. Mother had been invited to go along with the Bethel friends to the Weldon Stuffler. Father said, go right ahead, I'll take Glenna with me to Decatur. Well, Mother had put my hair up on muslin strips the night before, so all my father had to do was to set me up on the table and gently remove the strips, and presto was I beautiful. And I was to wear the dress I had worn when my picture was taken with Mother and Father. Weren't my curls beautiful? On that trip to Uncle Doctor's office, he held me up and looked down through an X-ray to see a needle wiggling in the bloodstream of a little girl's foot. We later heard that he had removed the needle without too much of a problem. I'm off my subject. When I taught at Bismarck, Illinois, 1925 to 1927, and wanted to come home for the weekend, two of us teachers would get someone to take us 2 miles west to the Morris Corner. There we would wait until a guest customer that the owner would know would come along, and he would ask him to take us along to Bangor. If we had to wait too long to catch interurban to Champaign at the depot, he would take us west where the interurban stopped at the railroad crossing. Often some Danville teachers would be there waiting also. In 1940, when Uncle Ole and James were visiting California, and we were writing our dad's postal book, we decided to go to Chicago to work at Newberry Library. So I drove to Champaign to catch the 6:30 a.m. train to Chicago. Took a taxi to Newberry with such high hopes that at last we could work together on the book. Arrived, sign said, closed for repairs. Oh, we didn't want to wait for this. So I suggested if we'd hurry, we could make the Wabash train to Monticello